friends, we are live, and there are many of us joining here tonight. I'm so excited to have these friends back with me. Can you hear Rodney? I saw you tapping your ears. Are you still getting audio? I don't know if
I'm getting audio, but it's really choppy.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
It
darn.
just
I
comes
thought
in
I
and
turned
out.
off the chop thing. But we'll see. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
we'll come back
Find
to
the
that.
chop button. Yeah.
I'll once somebody else starts talking, then I'll start messing with the audio while you guys visit. But I just again, this is sort of for lack of a better title, I'd called it the 1983 UT Jazz Combo Reunion Show. So. And we were just laughing before we began about the different people's approach to naming themselves on the screen. But let's just go around. I'll tell you who they are. That's Rick Lawn next to me in the next Hollywood Square over this way. And Rick Lawn was our director at University of Texas of the jazz program when we were all in school there. Just beyond Rick, you have Paul McKee. No, that's okay. Yeah, there you go. Everybody point at Paul.
It's backwards.
See if you can
it's backwards.
Paul McKee was the trombonist in our group, our combo, and in the big band. He was doing graduate work there, and fabulous trombone player. Went on to play with Woody Herman, and now he lives outside of Boulder, where he is a professor at the UT. I mean, at the University of Colorado Boulder, right, Paul?
For now.
Said that right? Yeah. Then if
Until this gets out.
You go straight down from Paul, which I can't do because I'm in the wrong square. You get Rob Fedson. Rob is currently doing security at the White House, and that's why he's got that face on. No, Rob is here in Austin, Texas, with me. Rob was percussionist in that group, and also a drummer, and great musician, and still lives in Austin and has done many exciting things, including leading the tech support area for Apple when Apple had its initial big presence here in Austin, Texas, and he's been an educator and continues to play and do all kinds of stuff. Next to Rob is Lynn Keller, formerly known as Lynn Keller, now just known as Lynn. And Lynn was the bassist in our band and a wonderful musician that played with a lot of people in town. And then she left Austin and went on to even greater things in Los Angeles, right, Lynn? And I'm not going to try to list everybody you've played with, but I know that there have been many great ones, and we'll get into that. And they're so glad you're here. Next to Lynn is JB. We know him as JB. Jeff Benedict, who was a great saxophonist. You were doing graduate work at the same time, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
You weren't a mere undergrad like some of us. You were doing graduate work. And I know Paul was graduate work. Rob, were you doing graduate work too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the other three of us were the underlings.
We're the flunkies.
So Jeff, great saxophonist, and he was here doing graduate work, and then he left Austin and joined the Dodgers, where he played for many years, and just retired recently.
I hold the record for booting ground balls.
No, Jeff, I can't remember what you told us you have been doing last time, but I know education is part of it. But I know you also have continued to play, and you've played with a lot of people, and you've done some great big band recordings, which you have continued to do, right, Jeff?
Try to keep plugging away.
And we'll get into that. And then down below Lynn, that's Rodney Lee. Austinites know Rodney Lee. He led a number of cool groups in town. He was the keyboardist in our group back in 83 at University of Texas. And then Rodney and I played together a little bit later in the 80s in a band he led called Trick Tracks. Isn't that what that band was called, Rodney? Trick Tracks?
Yeah, I was a member and kind of a co-leader of that. Yeah.
I thought
The Trick Tracks. Yeah,
I played with that band a few times. Yeah.
Yeah. Great funk and pop band, and Rodney played with a lot of different people, and then he went a variety of places and ended up out in the Los Angeles area. Isn't that where you are, right, Rodney?
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
has worked with a lot of great artists and continued to make great music. So there you go. I think I've spoken enough.
We're only missing one. And
Yeah,
Ralph's got a
Ralph
good excuse.
He moved to Switzerland, right?
Yeah. Burned.
Did he make it across the ocean? Has anybody heard from him?
Other than the instant message, thumbs up or thumbs down to you, that he couldn't make this. You know?
I didn't even get that message. Wow.
Oh yeah, yeah. He said he was like, up to here with getting resituated.
Okay. Hey, we got a message from Paul Ostermeyer.
Paul
He says,
Hey.
Oh.
Hey, Paul.
yeah, that's pretty cool. He was just on the other night, and look at that beautiful child he's holding there. Isn't that a nice?
She's a
photo?
cutie.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
So what do you guys? There's so many different things we could talk about, but one of the things that I thought would be interesting, especially to this sort of Austin-centric audience that this little show has had, which it is a small audience. Robert Skiles was asking me about. I asked him to come on, and he was asking me how many viewers I had, and I said, "Well, as you used to say about your gigs, well under 1 million." So I hope that didn't scare him off. But I thought it would be fun, among other things, to talk about for you guys to reflect on what it was about. You've played in a lot of music scenes. You've been in a lot of places. What is it in your experience and memories about Austin that was most impactful for you, or that makes it stand out in your mind as a place that was important in your musical life? Anybody jump in that wants to share any thoughts on that?
Gene
Rodney, you're
Ramey.
up.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
the day that Chris
Rick.
Marsh stopped me in the hallway, I think it was Chris, and said, I think, that Gene Ramey guy? And I said, oh, yeah. He said, I think he's living in Austin. I said, no. And I called him one day. I went through the phone book, and I see this listing, and I called him. And I went over, and we had lunch, and I don't think anybody knew he was around living. He was growing at the time. All he was doing was growing a crop of okra in North Austin. It was a community. Yeah, it was a community garden. He was playing dominoes and growing okra, and he had not played at all. And that whole thing that transpired after that, Jeff, you played a bunch of gigs with him. Rob, did you play with him? Paul, you played with him.
Oh, yeah.
Remind people, Rick, who Gene Ramey is, for those that don't
Well,
know.
Gene was the bassist who went to New York with kind of the last vestige of the big band era, the Kansas City band, Jay McShann.
Jay McShann,
yeah. And but while he was in Kansas City and on that band, he and Bird became very friendly. And there's several famous pictures that come to mind with Gene and Bird. They used to go into the park and practice, just jam. And then Gene had a really amazing career. He recorded actually the very first trio album that Monk made. Gene Ramey was the bass player, and I could go on and on and on. The great jazz talent that Gene recorded with. He was an amazing man.
How many people in this group got to play with Gene? Guys, I don't. Everybody.
I heard him. I didn't.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Rodney was gone by then.
Rodney was he?
Yeah, I think I had left.
Yeah, and Lynn, you had left by then, I believe.
Well, I remember him, and I remember hearing him play.
Yeah. I have some very funny remembrances of playing gigs with Gene.
Well, what did he say? He was a great musician, and he was also known for being very honest and very direct.
Oh yeah.
What do you all remember in a special thing that he said to you, those that played with him?
Well, I
I
remember
remember him telling me to stop rushing. and that was pretty regular, actually.
Yeah, he would ask me. He'd always say, "Do you know such and such a tune?" And I'd say no, and he'd say, "Okay, we're going to play it anyway."
Yeah.
Just
Oh yeah, that was his
make
favorite
something
thing.
up.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah, my favorite thing though that he would do is, you'd be playing rhythm changes or something where the everybody doesn't go to the bridge at the same time. There's always like somebody might go early or there's some confusion about the bridge. So he would just yell out when it was time for the bridge, he would just yell out, "George Washington!"
Yeah.
And I think I played with him for months before I knew why he was saying George Washington.
Yeah, that was
one
a
day I
New
go,
York thing.
"Oh, bridge,"
Every once in a while, I remember one night I called the rhythm changes tune. I don't remember what it was, but he started playing blues on like the A section, and we had a big conversation about it afterwards. That who was it that he said Lester or somebody used to? That's what he used to do in the first 8 or something, and then he'd go to the usual bridge, or George Washington as he called it. Yeah. Yeah, it threw me a curve because I was playing rhythm changes and I'm hearing blues.
That's an Austin, a common Austin story, right? Of discovering great musicians that were kind of quiet or not playing that much, and people would say that they live here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, let's get them out to play. I mean, that's the story with Dr. James Polk, of course, back in the late '60s, early '70s, and
Well, how about Terry Bozzio? Is he still living in town?
No.
No?
He lives in Japan now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Because he was in town for a while, I think, before anybody knew he was there.
Yeah, he was. That family unit broke up, and he went to work for D-Drum for a while, and then now he's working for them in Japan and is based out of there. He's remarried, and he's doing really well.
Okay.
Wasn't it when we were all in school together that we discovered that Carmen Bradford was in town, and she came over and did some things with us?
I tried to get her in school. I'll never forget that. Were any of you in the band the evening that I finally got a commitment from 2 of the voice faculty, Rose Taylor and somebody else, to come to the UT Jazz Orchestra concert? And I had arranged for Carmen to come in and sit in as a surprise guest and do, like, I don't know what she did, My Funny Valentine or something. And she just brought the house down. I mean, there were tears, and there wasn't as they say, there wasn't a dry seat in the house. Yeah. And, it was shortly after then that she sat in with Basie, and the rest is history. So,
I remember that. That was in whatever that hall is, where that the seats, if you stepped up too quickly, you'd fall all the way down to the stage.
Bates. Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, her dad was Bobby Bradford, famous trumpet player.
That's right.
With Basie as well, right? He played with Basie too, didn't he?
Well, that would be a surprise because he was more of a fringe, right? Kind of a Ornette school.
Yeah.
Player.
I thought that he had played with Basie.
Well, that may be true,
but I don't know for sure.
Well, and speaking of trumpet players who did play with Basie, I think was I'm getting old, guys.
Martin
Banks.
Martin Banks.
Yeah.
Another great Austin musician.
Yeah.
Yep. Martin had a heavy resume, man.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I know.
Gerald Wilson, I think, and I mean LA stuff as well as, he did a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Well, I was just thinking about I was just going to say just some of the surprises, besides like, you talk, getting back to the original question, I went to Austin because Rick went to Austin and I followed him there from UNI and got an assistantship. But I also was kind of craving more of an urban scene from my Iowa, undergrad days. And I was pleasantly surprised when I went to Austin. And besides, people like, Tony Campisi and Bob Meyer and some of the local folks who were amazing, the roster of just local musicians, including all the passenger guys and all that was so amazing, but also got exposed. I remember besides Gene Ramey, but like Arnett Cobb came to town. I remember Jimmy Ford.
Yeah.
And oh geez, who else? But I mean, a lot of folks that I had heard of, but didn't realize they were even still around. There were some guys in Houston who kind of migrated over from time to time.
Yeah,
and
Kirk
it was
and his bunch.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, that was one of the things that I didn't know really what to expect when I moved to Austin. But it was just such a wonderful, pleasant surprise that there was all this history there that I wasn't expecting, to run into. And that was really pretty cool. And then there were, some of the other characters like Luis Gasca, which everyone kind of reacts to say. Yeah. Does he owe anyone else money besides me? Anyway.
I was just going to say, I think he still owes me money.
Yeah. Anyway. But that I just love. Go ahead, Roddy.
Yeah, I was going to say I have a great Louis Gasca story, but I was going to go back to Scott's original question first, and I found that Austin, like looking back now through rose-colored glasses, it was just such an open community of musicians. I've never gone to another city where like all the musicians are just like, yeah, you play, come on, And I when I left Austin, I was in Boston for a long time, and it took forever to try to get a gig there. And I was just working, I had a day job, but I was just trying to pick up work. So I actually could not make any inroads. So I just put my own band together and just started hiring the people there in Boston that I wanted to work with. And then, I was able to play, some jazz clubs and stuff there.
That's typical East Coast, man. Philly's the same way.
Yeah.
You got to form your own band.
Yeah, nobody cared. But Austin, I always felt like it was so welcoming. And, for me, just starting college there, it was like the first real introduction to the music business and playing clubs and dealing with club owners and all that. And then eventually you start making a little bit more money, and then there's contracts involved. And then also, through the UT Jazz Orchestra, I played all the way through college. And it was just like an amazing, just learning environment I found. But my Louis Gasca story is, we were playing at there was a club called the Fish Market on 6th Street.
Oh, yeah.
And
play there all the time.
And when I first got to Austin, I used to play. Paul knows I had an organ, and I played bass pedals. So it was me and my roommate Stan Zeff, who was also in the playing jazz ensemble. Yeah, Stanton. Yeah. And so Louis hires us, Stan and I, to back him at the Fish Market, and it's him and Louis and Tomas Ramirez. And so Stan and I get there. Louis Gasca and Tomas Ramirez are nowhere to be found. We play the entire first set by ourselves. Then in walk Louis Gasca and Tomas Ramirez for the second set, and the club owner's just livid now, and just I could hear screaming and shouting. So they play like maybe a couple tunes, and then they leave. And then the next morning, I wake up, and Stan says to me, "Dan, you got to turn on the TV. Look what's going on." I kid you not, that night, the Fish Market burned to the ground.
Oh, man.
And no one knows what happens, but, the Fish Market's it's in the middle of 6th Street, right? And so it kind of just strategically, this one little column of a building strategically burns to the ground overnight. And we just always joke that, Louis Gasca came back and did a thing. But I just came across, I don't want to, throw anything negative about Louis Gasca, but I came across him on YouTube just in the last month. And I was like, oh, wow. And he had a record that he made in the early 70s. And I guess it was his thing, and I mean, his own, big claim to fame, but he had all these amazing musicians on it. I can't remember all of them.
Is that the one with Joe Henderson on it, I think?
Yeah, it was like George Duke and Stanley Clark and just... And so, but if you look down in the comments, There was a hilarious story that someone tells that Louis Gospel was going around, I don't know, somewhere in Mexico, and he comes in and he has this album, and he used to use it to get gigs. And this was like, I don't know, like 10 years ago. And he shows the club owner this album. He gets a gig there, and then the club owner, he was like at a resort or something, and so the club owner was so impressed that he books him, and I guess puts together a band for him, and he allows Louis to stay at the resort for free.
Oh man.
Oh.
And the guy says that within a day or two, the police come and they catch. I don't know. This is on YouTube. I don't know. It's in the comments. They catch you, Louis. Louis was breaking into other people's hotel rooms and stealing the stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And they had to kick him out. They didn't arrest him, but they threw him out of the resort and everything. And I just thought, wow, maybe he really did burn down the
The fish market.
How many others on this call played with Louis?
I think
Remember when he brought in Chet Baker?
yes.
What club was
it?
that?
Oh, that was the old theater.
Yeah.
Texas Money, I think, is what they call
Yes,
it.
I think so. And I remember Chet came in. The first set, Chet was not happening.
No.
Chet
Oh,
was
God.
not happening. And then there was a break.
Yeah.
And then they went
So we were
outside
all-
for a while. And then they came back in, and Chet was ready to go.
He was on, man. Yeah.
So
Was that the same place that they had Jocko?
no.
Oh, well,
No.
that was
Was-
called 6th Street Live at the time.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
I think it's called the Roxy now, or no, it's actually maybe it's an Alamo Draft House now.
Well, it was an old theater, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was used to be the old State Theater, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so.
So that Chet Baker gig, that was Doug Hall and Blondell and me were the rhythm section for that.
Oh,
Right.
And talk about the embarrassing things like not showing up. The three of us are out there, packed house. Everybody's come there to see Chet Baker, and we're playing, and we play all blues. And Doug was a great player. God, I miss Doug. He was an incredible player, and he played a great solo. And then Blondell was playing upright, and Blondell played a great solo. And then we traded some fours, and then still no Chet Baker. And then Doug plays another solo. And finally, we milk everything out of all blues that we possibly can. So we play another tune. And we play like a half an hour or more. And if you remember that club, there was like a stairway. It was like the grand entrance to come down from the green room.
yes.
And Chet walks up to the mic, goes, "Pwah," and turns around and walks back up the stairs. and that's it. And we're playing. I think we're playing Autumn Leaves then, like his signature tune.
Yeah.
And he decides, well, I'm not going to show up for this.
Wow.
And so he goes away, and we finish the tune, and the three of us are, what the hell is happening here? We're trying to, smile our way through the pain. And finally, he comes back down, and if you recall, he says, "I've got 2 sets of teeth, and I had to send the guy to the hotel, and he brought my eating teeth, not my playing teeth."
Oh, jeez.
I remember that.
Yes.
And
Oh,
one note,
man.
I knew I was hurting, and so I had to go send the guy for the right teeth.
Not
Wow.
the wrong mouthpiece, the wrong teeth.
The wrong
Yeah.
teeth,
Interesting.
yeah.
Wrong
I
teeth.
hate it when that happens.
And after that, it was a pretty fun night. I mean, it was certainly a thrill for me to play a gig with Chet Baker. But
Yeah.
that was Robert Wilson.
That's
brought
right.
Those guys in, and he brought in.
He brought in Jimmy Ford. He brought in.
Richie Cole,
Yep.
Lee Konitz,
Yep.
Bobby Shue, and Doug and John, and I got to play with all those guys. It was
Yeah.
an amazing opportunity to get, My career is based on the fact that I played with everybody once.
You remember the way that Robert Wilson would the most challenging thing when he was
I know what
conducting
you're gonna say.
the non-ego jazz orchestra is if we had a hold at the end of a tune, then instead of just cutting us off, he would take an invisible piece of string and stretch it, and we were supposed to know when it snapped.
Actually, no.
Which is why people would you'd hear the horns going yeah.
It's funny you talk about some of these guys like Luis and Robert, and all the BS that accompanied some of those gigs. But there were also, they provided us with some opportunities to play some good quality music, and I try to think about that and not focus on some of the negative stuff. But these are some funny stories, absolutely. But I'm trying to think about,
if they're having podcasts, they're talking about us and what we did right
That's
now.
right.
That's the only way to look at this, right?
Somebody who comes to mind too that isn't with us unfortunately anymore, who I always thought was a fabulous singer. And I think several of you probably played with her. I think Lynn maybe did. Anyway, Kelly Gray.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Miss Kelly, so much.
Man, she was the real deal, and that's a shame. I think she went back to Houston, if I'm not mistaken.
She did. She went to Paris for a while too, didn't she?
Well, she was living in Paris.
Yeah, that's what I
and
thought.
then she came back to Houston, and it's just really sad. She was having all this back pain, really bad back pain, and she ended up. Actually, she was coming down to Austin, and she ended up canceling some stuff and went back up to the Bay Area, and went to a doctor and found out she was going to pass like within a couple weeks.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So sad.
I know that.
go ahead.
There's I believe that Eric Avenger just produced. She was in the midst of doing a CD at the time of all this, and I think, if I'm correct, it's Prince tribute songs. If he put that out, I think there were funds made available to him to do that. So there is a new CD somewhere. She passed just a year ago, December. So.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I read that or heard it somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, and also Tina Marsh.
Yeah, there you go.
The CO2, that was sure a fun gig. Getting to play with
it
the personnel in that bands for some of those event recordings and stuff was Dennis Gonzalez. Remember, he would come down and Dennis.
Bob Rodriguez. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, and Lynn and I, for years, we it feels like years. It probably wasn't that long.
Oh yeah.
There it is.
There it is.
Hey, cool.
Nice.
That's cool. Lynn and I had some great experiences with Donna Menthol, and we had that. Lynn, we had that house gig for a while at it's the Radisson or something now. I don't know what it is.
Sheraton.
At First and Congress, right?
Sheraton.
Town Lake, right?
Sheridan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the cool thing was, I mean, all the years I lived in Austin, I worked almost 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
It was great. So Donna, we did the Sheraton for a long time, and then we did the Lakeway Yacht Club and Rich Harney played on that gig.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, there's another big loss.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Yeah.
I love to play with Rich.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Bless his heart. That gig that we had at the Sheraton, Lynn.
Yeah.
Was that the one where we had to wear the tuxes? I mean, I don't think you had to wear a tux, but
Well,
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I do know that at the Lakeway Yacht Club we had to wear tuxes, and I couldn't handle it after this period of time, and I just screamed at the band. I said, "Give me your tuxes. I'm taking them to the dry cleaner." I couldn't stand it. To be clean. I could see all my bandmates all around me.
We did that for a year or so, didn't we? I think it was a while.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, those gigs had longevity. It was fantastic.
Yeah. I did one of those later. Yeah, I did one. I remember. I know we had to wear tuxedos because I remember being in the lobby of the Sheraton Hotel on a break, and this guy drives up in a Bentley, kind of trots in the door and throws me his keys.
Park my
He
car.
loved your playing, man. He loved your playing.
And I just rifled him right back at him. I'm in the band.
You should have said, "I'll bring it back to you next year."
Yeah, really.
That was a hell of a tip. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Lynn, do you remember on that gig? There was a time when I was my brother. I was living with my brother, and he was making me go to the gym with him. He had these designs on me, building more muscles or something. And I hurt my back pretty badly. And it took me a while to get over it. And I was playing that gig at night with a heating pad strapped underneath my tux, plugged into the wall. So it looked like I was an electric drummer. It was just like this cord came out the back. And I don't know if you remember that, but it made me sweat badly.
So
Exercise in gyms is not good for you. Let me tell you. I've ruined myself more times doing that.
Two things about that. One, Jeff and I spent about 50 years there with Barbara Amaral at that Sheraton.
Oh yeah.
You got to lean in, man. We can't hear you. You got to lean in. Get your nose right up on the glass, Bubba.
Jeff and I played there with a chanteuse singer named Barbara Amaral for a long, long time.
Yep.
And the Lakeway gig you're talking about, I don't know if you remember it or not, Lynn, but I remember Robert Atwood was a guitar player, and Rich played piano. And I had that gig for 2 weeks, and Patty fired me, and it remains the only gig I've ever been fired from in my whole life.
Wow.
But I know why. It was because I was smoking on stage, which in like 1982 was.
Yes.
I didn't think that much of it, but.
Yeah. I saw something on Facebook the other day that brought back memories, and it was a live gig on their front porch, I think, that I guess they were just doing with their neighbors, with Steve Vague and Fernando. Yeah.
Fernando texted me just 5 minutes ago.
Did he?
I still play with him. So I do New Year's Eve with him every year, and
I played a lot of gigs with Fernando.
Oh God, yeah, Fernando and Rob Lockhart played together for a long, long time.
That's right.
Donna does a duo with him.
Huh?
Donna does a duo with him.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I think I started playing with Fernando when Rob went to California when he moved.
Oh yeah.
Because I did La Mancion for seems like forever.
That's
Friday and Saturday night with Fernando. Good guy and makes great salsa. Oh man.
Great
guys, for blast. I know you guys have seen this, but check out the photo. Can you see the photo?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So this is what we looked like in '83.
Oh my God.
This is the before picture.
Before. Rob must have a black belt in something.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm thinking Rodney and Lynn. They don't look like they've aged at all.
Yeah, they do. They look very much the same.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know what happened to my hair, but that definitely took us.
Yeah. And the back row is not holding up so well.
Ralph's hair is not holding up so well.
No. In case you're listening, Ralph.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ralph didn't make this.
He's not here to defend himself either, man. That's not fair.
Talking about old players, there are also so many other guys that when I first came to Austin that I got introduced to that weren't the biggest players on the scene, but were such great players. Guys like Bill Tanner, remember him? The organ player, Hammond player.
Oh, yeah.
Really good. I used to play over on the east side with him, and man, that guy just swung his ass off. And who's the other Hammond player?
Red?
No, I'm talking way before Red. We used to play at Sugar's. Remember that place?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was a
No.
strip club, wasn't it?
Not Sugar's the strip club. The one.
Oh.
The one that was the club that was opened by a penthouse pet. It was down there where the American Dry Cleaners was on 5th Street, and they had that big mural on the side. Nick Connolly. That's
I don't know him.
Great Hammond player. And then there was guys like Beans Richardson. He was a bass player of Gene Ramey's era. And
Oh, really?
played with a lot of people. And this weird piano player named Johnny Batchman came to town and bought a club. And this was after my long hotel gig stint with Sandy Allen ended. And this guy bought a club with Pearl Amster, the piano faculty at UT.
Yeah.
And they put a great Bosendorfer up there on the 2nd floor. It was over off by where the Swedish Hill Bakery is and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Down there. And he put me and Beans on retainer for a 6-night-a-week gig.
Wow.
And we showed up there and we played to a completely empty room every night. They never even hired any staff, let alone a patron every day. And were paying me like $4 bills a week to sit there for 20 minutes and then go home. And that lasted about a month. And then but Beans was a really cool guy and had a lot of great old stories. A lot of the back in the day stuff.
Just think if you'd had streamed it, you could have just added however much applause you wanted, and nobody would have known there wasn't anybody in the room.
Kind of like the way they're playing baseball now, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, Rodney brought when you were talking earlier about kind of learning the business part of the scene in Austin when you were here, being exposed to it. It made me reflect back on, and I actually have a photo that kind of captures the moment, but that brief period around 85, 86, when I played with you guys in Trick Tracks. Chris Marsh was in that band. Derek Edmondson was in that band. I'm trying to remember who else. Guitar player and singer. I forgot who the other guys were, but you'll see them in the photo. I'm going to show you a photo, but do you remember when we played Halloween at Hank Vick's place? What was that called? Steamboat on 6th Street.
Oh, Steamboat, yeah.
Yeah. And when after the gig, Hank stiffed us, he wouldn't pay us. And I was the oldest guy in the band.
Business.
Yeah. I was the oldest guy in the band by a couple of years, so I'm like, I'll talk to him. So we walked in, and he pulled out a revolver, and he said, "What do you want to discuss?" And we just walked right.
You're kidding me.
Oh yeah. Oh, this guy was bad news, man.
Wow.
But that gig.
So that place burned down?
Right.
Rodney should have burned it down that night. So anyway,
is that where Kirk Whalum used to play? Steamboat?
No.
Baxter's.
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 That's right, Baxter's. Yeah.
Here's a photo from that gig on New Year's Eve, on Halloween.
Oh wow!
Now notice that we're supposed to be in Halloween costume. Rodney told me that we were going to be dressing up in costume.
And you fell for it, Scott.
Notice how many people fell for that in the photo. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually playing in a tutu. I've got a big wig on. But you guys lied to me. That's not cool.
Yeah, there's Derek. There's Chris Marsh. That guitarist is Brad Schultz.
Is that Clay Moore? No.
And then
Brad Schultz.
No, that's not Clay Moore. That's Brad Schultz. And
Brad
then Teddy Speedy Martin is singing. And then Derek's got his back to us. And then
Dean.
And then you gotta love
that
on
percussion.
Heart of Texas speaker right behind Scott's head.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So anyway,
that's great.
I saw that photo and I thought you'd get a kick out of that because I just remember you were like, "Hey, we're going to do costumes." So I'm like, "Oh, cool," That's how square I was back then. So I went down and I actually rented something. And then I showed up and you guys walk in looking all normal and hip and slick and I'm like, "Oh shit." And I didn't have any other clothes. I was toast, you know. So,
But Steamboat it's funny you mentioned Hank Vick because the office, you remember, was down underneath the club, so you had to go down that narrow staircase down to the club. I mean to the office underneath, and I can just imagine him pulling a gun on you. But I mean, he was famous. He was famously known for, like, he and I don't know if his wife or girlfriend or whatever, but they were basically snorting up all the money down there.
Yeah.
he did pull a gun, and I'm sure I was far less intimidating in a tutu than I might have been if I had pants on. You know? But it was
hilarious.
It was bad news, you know.
But I saw that Paul Ostermeyer was commenting a couple times, and I just wanted to say I don't think unless he came and played with the Jazz Orchestra maybe once or twice, I don't think I ever got a chance to do a gig with him. But the Passenger was such a huge inspiration.
Yeah,
for
great band.
For me and a lot of the young guys that were in town, and I remember those going to see that band often. The place where you sat, and then there was the creek ran between you and the band.
Symphony
What was that
Square.
called?
Symphony
Symphony
Square.
Square.
Yeah, Symphony Square, the outdoor place. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
remember seeing them there a lot. And yeah.
Me
Remember
too.
when we had the Longhorn
but that whole band
Jazz
was-
Festival? Remember when Rick put on the festival and they were the guest artists, right? So they closed out and we saw them play in the Performing Arts Center. That was
They played in
amazing.
Bass. Yeah, that's right.
They
Yeah.
were killing
No, it
it.
was-
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go see them all the time, and in fact, Roscoe was my mentor, and I, he has no clue. I've told him, but he's like, what? But I used to go see him play. And I was one of those. I sat in the front just staring, and for years I did that. And I have this great relationship with him now. And in fact, when I was in Austin the last time, I was there on tour, and he asked me if I would come and teach one of his students, that he felt that he had a female student and he wanted a female perspective in teaching. So we taught the lesson together, and it was really so rewarding. So rewarding. It was great.
Hey, Lynn, with what you've gone on to do with Rita Coolidge and the work you've done around shows and touring shows and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe it's kind of a cliche question, but what was it about your time in Austin that gave you the kind of starting place to feel confident and go to the West Coast and do all of what you've done? I mean, how would you quantify that?
Austin really it allowed me to cut my teeth. It allowed me to experience all kinds of music. So I wasn't as focused in jazz as you guys were. I played it, enjoyed it, but I also had the opportunity to play all different kinds of stuff. I was on contract with a country band for 3 years. I played every country western dance hall in Austin, or all over Texas, not just Austin. Anyways, I mean, so I had this huge chance to experience all different things. And by the time I had decided to move to LA, I mean, I kind of had felt like I had done what I wanted to do, and I didn't see that I would be doing more in Austin. I might just be keeping busy. So when Olita Adams hired me, I had gone to Houston to audition for her. When she hired me and I went to Kansas City to play with her, that was kind of like the courage I needed to just go and make this change. So, I mean, Austin, I owe a lot to Austin. I mean, my years with Donna Menthal were priceless. My time with Kelly Gray was amazing. And being at UT, I mean, UT was a second chance for me. I was at the University of Illinois first, and I was a flute major. And I didn't like my professor that I was assigned to. He was anything but encouraging. He was discouraging. And I got really depressed, and I quit school, which was not something that was in my character to do, but I did it. And I moved to Austin because I heard there was a great music scene, and I thought, well, maybe I'll have a chance there. And then I had 6 years off between when I quit school and when I went to UT. And by the time I went to UT, it was just such a great experience. I mean, I was doing gigs. Rick would be on some gigs I was doing. That was monumental to me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm playing a gig with my teacher, and had such great encouragement. Donald Grantham and Carl Corte and a lot of the other people there. So it just really gave me the most solid foundation, and also, a focus. A lot of the reason I get hired on gigs is I can read. I can write charts. I am organized. I know what I'm doing. And Austin was that for me. It was totally that for me. So
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a great word.
Yeah.
They had the greatest theory program there.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
That was those years in that theory department with Dorothy Payne, Stefan Koska, Doug Green,
Bill Penn.
Bill Penn, and who was Elliot Anicolitz in the
Geez.
musicology area.
Yeah.
There were some really, really strong faculty all the way
Rebecca, what was her name?
Walter.
Walter.
Yes.
Yes, she was. So, there
Yep.
was some
John
amazing faculty
Grubb.
there.
John Grubbs is still alive. At least last I heard, he's quite old now. I think he was grad advisor back in that
Yeah,
day.
that sounds
Maybe.
right.
Yeah, maybe.
That
Yeah.
sounds right.
Yeah, that division in particular.
Carol Gonzo was the graduate advisor.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Because I think Grubbs had ended up in, he was a dean in the Maine University graduate dean office. Because I remember I sat in a meeting with him in that building across campus somewhere, trying to convince them that they should let me start a grad program. And they looked at me and they said, "And how many faculty are there full time?" And I said, "Well, there's really only one." There was really some serious arm twisting. And I think the only reason that it was able to happen was because of the support of that theory faculty, which is where the jazz program lived for all those years. I don't think it lives there now, but it did as long as I was there. And those people, they were, right there with me.
Right.
Whenever I had a battle to wage, they were there. So,
Jeff, what brought you to Austin?
I went to Austin to study with Harvey Patel at the university, and I knew nothing about Austin. I was from Colorado, so all I know about Texans is the tourists we see in the summertime. Or I worked as a house painter, and this guy, we were painting he got involved with a contractor, and we were working on new houses, right? So I'm working on this house, and this guy, 10-gallon hat, pounds on the door, and he's like, "This is a nice house. How much you want for it?" And the builder happened to be there, and he said, "I'm building this house for myself. I'd be happy to talk to you about building one. I could build you one just like it, but this one's my house." "No, hell, son, I want this one." Like, it's not for sale. That's, Texans to me were like, "How much you want for it?" So I just thought, Texas, why do I want it? But somebody, Harvey Patel was there. So for various reasons, that became, and then they gave me money, on top of it. So it just became obvious that I needed to go there. And I thought, okay, well, I'll probably never play jazz at all, and I'm just going to do this thing and focus on classical saxophone, because I wanted to learn about that. And it was a totally great surprise to me to run into so many great jazz players, and Rick was so welcoming. I remember walking into your office just like cold. It was maybe a week before school started. You were in the old music building, the music building east,
Oh yeah.
and where it was always like meat locker temperature, which was nice when you came in from outside.
Oh,
It was
yeah,
108 degrees or whatever. All I knew about you was what I knew about, actually, since Paul and Rob are here too. The first time that I went to the Wichita Jazz Festival, you guys You won that festival at University of Northern Iowa.
Right.
With Paul McKee and Fedson and Helmer.
That's right.
I remember watching you guys. Like, damn, that was a great band. You know.
Yeah.
And then, So.
Yeah.
And then you were with Lamont, right?
Right.
Yeah, he was with Dave Caffey up there.
I think we won the next year.
Oh,
You
wow.
did. I'll tell you that the first year I was there, you can ask Sue. I came home a couple nights shaking my head and almost in tears saying, why the hell did we leave? And really, I mean, it was grim. It was not good. And some of the faculty, they treated me like I was a grad student. And I mean, it was only through the luck of getting Paul to be the first TA. Remember, we ran the first jazz festival. I said, well, let's start a jazz festival. And 50 bands signed up. And there's like the two of us running the whole freaking thing. And then Bayog comes down in the hall, stamping. What a mess this is. I mean, I was complaining about it. I was so livid. At any rate, I mean, and then Rob showed up, and then Jeff shows up, and then I think a year or so later, and I just exchanged an email with, I called them my Dave bookends, because I sent an email to Dave Aberg and Dave Morgan, and those were two guys on either end of kind of my time there. About a project that I'm working on, and Dave was another walk-on, I mean, I had no idea Dave Aberg was showing up, and he walked into my studio, and he introduced himself, and I find out, my God, this guy plays, he writes charts, another like gift from the gods, and then of course Dave Morgan was kind of a Lynn Keller, I mean, Dave showed up in town. Had been a rock and roll band guitar player, moved to Austin. He sort of played some bass too, I guess. And so I guess he had sort of decided to take it seriously and got real serious about learning what was really going on and became one of the best students I ever had. I mean, Dave is a fantastic talent.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know whether you guys have heard any of his writing lately, but he's doing some serious stuff. It's very, very fine.
Dave was good friends with Bob Rodriguez too. When
yes, that would make sense.
To come to town and playing with CO2, and then Dave and Bob and I backed up this hypnotist at the Laugh Stop.
Uri Geller or somebody?
No, Sam Vine.
I know that.
Yeah. And we did, and then after those guys left, Dave Benedict and Sandy Allen and I did for two or 3 years.
Yeah, Benedict. Yep.
There's another blast from the past.
But talk about overqualified for the gig.
I know Tom Tallman, who's another one that comes to mind. I saw that he just retired.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
College of Page.
I don't know what's up with Burdick. I have lost track of him.
He's still at Milliken.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, he got very heavily into the recording thing, right?
Yeah, that's mostly what he does.
That's what I thought.
Commercial music in their studio, and he had me up there a long time ago to do I did a percussion day, a recording day, a technology day. And,
oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really fun. And man, he had a really cool thing going up there. That's
a nice little school.
A whole big old Midwestern house that was the recording studio.
Oh, wow.
And the percussion studio was a 3-story house down the street, and it's just really cool vibe.
Yep.
So,
yeah, there was a trumpet player there that I first got to know that school through. Randy something or other. I think he's probably retired now, Rob. Probably long gone by the time you went up there.
Hey, you guys brought up Wichita, and I think it would be kind of fun to see if anybody has any memories of our experience that year when we went, both as a big band and as a combo, right? Because this is the combo right here, minus Ralph. So,
Yeah.
does anybody have any memories of that experience that year when we were up there that stand out to you?
What did we play? I don't remember what we
I
played.
don't remember what we played either. I
played
just
some-
remember the note from one of the judges that said "too much bells" written really big across the page.
Too much bells?
bells. Yeah, he didn't like my bell tree. You know, that was very in vogue at the time.
Who was the judge? Do you remember?
I don't even remember who our judges were. Randy Brecker was one of them, right?
Yeah,
Weren't-
probably.
Weren't they the Steps guys?
Oh, it may
They
have
were
been.
there. They
But
were
it
there.
wasn't.
Was it all of them?
No,
I can't
it wa-
imagine. If
no,
that
it
if that was
wasn't-
the judging group, then
it
I'm
wasn't
glad I
Erskine.
didn't know that.
Yeah,
you
it
know.
wasn't Erskine
Really?
or Michael Brecker. Neither one of those guys judges. But one of my recollections is that concert is that Steps concert. Was watching Peter Erskine play a whole piano solo on a 16-inch ride cymbal, on a really tiny little ride cymbal. It's something you don't do, but he did that, and it sounded great.
You know, speaking of Randy Brecker, the last gig I played with my Philly band was actually with Randy Brecker. And he remembered me, and he remembered the gig he did
Yeah.
at the festival. And that was the very first college clinic concert guest artist gig he said that he had ever done.
Oh, really?
Yep.
'Cause It showed.
That's what he said.
At UT.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know if Lynn and Rodney, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we were on stage. The three of us were on, and Benedict, I think, were on stage with Randy Brecker. We were doing the afternoon clinic, and Randy clearly was not into the thing. He didn't know really what to do, and his back was to the audience, and he looked at us and said, "What do you want to play?" And I was in a mood or something, who knows. I said, "I don't know, man, anything but Stella." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I said, "Anything but that." And he
was in a mood too,
Oh,
because
yeah, he was.
his wife was about ready, I think, to deliver their first child, Ileana.
Elias, yeah.
Yeah, so like he was like, you know, by the phone and this and that, and we did. Jeff, you did a chart.
Yeah, Twilight.
Exactly.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I
he's
think I was
changed a
gone when all
lot.
this. I don't remember any of that. I must have been gone when
I
that.
think
You
you were
you were
gone
gone.
because I was playing drums, so you were gone.
So that was in
Yeah.
'84 then, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
right? I had moved to New York on that
Yep.
interesting adventure. It was a very
I was gone
loose-
too,
it was-
probably.
yeah, you were out with
Oh, you
Woody
were gone.
Herman.
You were on Woody's band, I think, by then. Yeah.
The, I remember it. I remember Lynn and Rodney were singled out in our combo, or the big band, or both, with awards that year at Wichita.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am
I know
correct?
Rodney was.
Yeah.
Because Rodney got a scholarship, I think, to that Jamie Aebersold camp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this picture showing?
Yeah, I see him, but I don't hear him well.
Rodney, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for us, really loud. No, it's off in a. You're in a
It's-
canyon somewhere, man.
Yeah.
Do you think that if your headphones have a microphone on them, just make sure you lift it up to your mouth and undo the gating or whatever's causing it?
Ooh.
No.
I'm trying to share a screen.
You can, if you
'Cause I
want
have
to
a-
ditch your headphones, go for it. Maybe you can just go with a straight up microphone. But now he.
And now
froze.
he's frozen.
Yeah, now he's frozen.
The
Do you
I
guys?
remember, Lynn. Weren't you recognized as well? I thought you and Rodney both were. Maybe not. I recognized you. That's
I
for damn
don't
sure.
remember everything from those years. It's been a while.
Gee,
I remember getting the judges. I think Rick, you shared them with us, or maybe you gave them to us to read,
Yeah.
or maybe we each got a copy or something. I remember reading the paper that came to me from the judges. I distinctly remember you played some really great stuff. I'm not sure it had anything to do with what was going on, but it was really good. And I remember at the time thinking, what a mean thing to say. You don't know what you're talking about. And then, before we decided to do this, I actually listened to that old recording, and I was like, they were pretty accurate. I think they knew what they were talking about. it was an era of especially for rhythm section players and drummers more than any, Rob. It was testosterone fueled. You know, I've got to play all the notes because I may be dead tomorrow and I got a lot to say. You know, I don't know what that was all about, but
Jeff, did you say you were trying to share something?
Yeah, I've got someone trying to share a screen. I have a picture of us with Randy Brecker.
Oh yeah.
Do you have the share screen button? Can you
Yeah.
see it? Go for it.
I can see it, but it's not showing.
I wonder if I have to give.
I think you have to give me
access
permission or something.
Yeah, you have to probably turn it over to him.
Guests. Let's see. I don't know why you can't share the screen. That's weird.
It says
Rodney, say something. No, it's still very low.
My computer's going to die. I have to get a plug. I'll be right back.
Okay.
We'll be here. I don't know what I have to do to enable that. Let me see if there's a way to give Jeff permission to share his screen. I can show him like that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Are you sharing your screen
Hi,
now?
Jeff.
I am, should be.
Yeah.
That didn't seem to make a difference. Let's see if this makes a difference. No. So it says so this is one of the limitations of this software, I guess, is that if oh no, here it is. There you go.
There you
Hey.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
I have that picture too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Barry McVinney was playing lead alto, it looks
Yeah,
like.
from left to right, there's Randy Brecker, Rob Fedson, Anthony Hulsebus,
Yeah.
Barry
Wow.
McVinney.
Yeah.
Truly, let's see, trombones. I don't know who's behind Barry's head. James Lakey.
Oh, James
Yeah.
Lakey, yeah.
That might be Gary Doby behind.
Oh, yeah,
Fred-
that sounds right. Gary Doby, probably.
Fred Johnson, is it
Yeah.
Dave Aberg, maybe?
Dave Aberg, Fred Johnson. Is that Tallman?
Maybe, yeah.
On the left.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I can't remember his name, but
I
No, it's
remember
not
what he
Tallman.
looks like, but I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
How cool. That's neat.
That's a neat shot.
Wow.
I'll tell you, I have some beautiful remembrance pictures. I have one of me conducting, and Rodney's in it, in one of them, with Mel Torme. You remember that, Rodney?
Oh, yeah.
oh wow.
I remember that.
Remember that?
Oh,
That
yeah.
was a hell of an opportunity right there.
Yeah, that was
So
cool.
Mel was a guest, or what?
Yeah.
When was
Did
that?
Diane Schur too, I think.
Yeah, I have a picture of that somewhere.
Man,
Yeah, I
missed
do
all
too.
of- I either missed all of those or I fell asleep and didn't.
You know, the
wake up
guy
in
who
time,
took
but-
some of those really nice shots that are like album cover quality was a guy by the name of Tad Hirschhorn. And he
Oh,
was
yeah.
from, you know Tad? He's from a little town originally in somewhere South Texas. And he was a photographer for a paper. But believe it or not, he just retired after 20 some years as an archivist with the Rutgers Institute of Jazz Studies.
Oh, wow.
Oh
Yeah. Yeah. He was the one who did the whole Mary Lou Williams website tribute that they had a number of years back. And
Yeah.
very cool guy. Very cool guy.
What's
I have.
this one?
Are you seeing that? That's
See,
his,
that's
one of
his
his,
signature right there.
That's,
Oh, wow.
that's his,
That's with Diane.
so Burdick, right?
Bob
and the
Sundberg.
trumpets- Right, Bob Sundberg. That's Butler,
Jim Butler.
Jim Butler.
Sundberg, Bob Sundberg, yeah.
Right, and then Mohasey and Walton was his last name.
Oh,
maybe?
yeah. Jim? No.
No, it wasn't John Boy, but and I see Jerry Amory back there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a hell of a player.
Was
And
Hawk
the
in there?
trumpet section, there's-
Yeah, I think
Oh.
Hawk is playing lead, isn't he?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah.
Tom
Tallman.
Tallman, Steve Hawk, Kelly Dunn, and Carol Morgan.
Carol Morgan, yeah.
Carol, wow, she was in that band. So
Yeah.
this was 1988. Is that what
Yeah.
it says there?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
That's
the
a great
80
picture.
It was in the concert hall. It
Yes.
was at the Jazz Festival.
It was rehearsal for the Jazz Festival. That's right. Yeah, that's one of my favorite pictures too.
Rodney and I were. When did we intersect our lives in Boston? Like 87, 88? Was it about that time or? Oh, we can't hear you, man.
I can kind of hear him.
I can kind of hear him.
unplug and just use the straight up microphone. See if that works.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Hey.
Hey.
All right.
Oh,
So
look
when
at
was
that.
that?
All right. It's the sorry headphones.
Was that around
I was in
87,
Boston
88,
from
about the same
87
time?
to 91.
Okay, yeah. Because
Yeah,
I know
probably
that's
got
where
88. Yeah.
that's where
But I was
our
gonna
lives
say,
intersected
I remember
briefly
that-
up there, right? I mean,
Yeah. But I was going to go back to what Rick was saying about when Mel Torme came. And I remember I was terrified on that
I
day
remember.
because
I remember you were.
we were playing, yeah, we were playing the Performing Arts Center, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's just like the biggest venue I've ever played. The place is packed.
Yep.
And there were a lot of moments where it was just Mel and piano. And thank God he was just the nicest, sweetest man. And
Wasn't he though?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was totally cool, and
Yeah.
and it all went, it all went fine. But I was just like, oh,
Yeah. I remember he was very cool. He was a great musician,
Oh,
which I think is part of why he was so
Yeah,
cool. I mean,
he
he
was-
just,
yeah,
he got it.
Yeah.
yeah.
hell of a
I
drummer.
think if I'm not
But it goes back
mistaken,
to-
he slid over on the bench with you at one point to show you something, like a voicing maybe or something.
I remember
Yeah.
that.
I remember that too. Yeah.
He was just so
He was-
helpful, you know.
Yeah. He was cool. He was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was
Didn't he have-
instrumental in just.
Didn't he have a pianist with him? Because his pianist was
Yeah.
John Campbell.
Well, he may have. I think he did a small group set,
He
didn't he?
brought a drummer. He brought
Huh.
a drummer.
Was
didn't
it Donnie Osborne?
Probably.
Oh.
He was, Paul.
Huh.
Sure. Yeah.
he? Yeah, I thought he brought a drummer, but no piano
Okay.
player.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. But it actually
Yeah,
went
nice
well. But it
parts.
goes back to what Lynn was saying, that what an opportunity to be in those situations, in a learning environment, and just what that prepares you for, for later in life,
Right.
musically. So
Yeah.
it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it
What do
gives
you
you
got-
confidence to do like a range of things,
Right.
because if you can do that, you can certainly do this,
Mhm.
And I
Right,
was really
right.
lucky because I couldn't believe it. I stepped into a gold mine because I was approached by the student activities folks who were sitting on a pot of gold every year and looking for ways to spend it. And they came to me to back the jazz festival. So like all I had to do was, maybe agree to one artist that they wanted to bring in, or I would go over to their meetings with a jam box and CDs. And how about this, and how about that? And how about that? They underwrote like all that stuff.
Wow.
I was very lucky.
What do you
What
guys?
was the first year of the festival?
83, I think, wasn't it, Paul?
Was that Lou
That sounds-
Walken or Toshiko? Was it one of them? It was
It
Toshi,
may have been Toshiko. Well, I know I had Lou before I had Toshiko.
Right.
Yeah. And then there was the Freddie Hubbard year in there somewhere.
Yeah,
I
there
missed
was.
that one. So that was later.
There was. I'll never forget Lou in the in the dress rehearsal at the end of it, and Jeff will appreciate this. There was like a pile of cane at the base of the mic. Discards. They were just discards, He'd wet it up, sticking on, shit. Nah, shit.
Bad reads.
We could have had a bonfire at the end of the
Yeah.
rehearsal.
Wow.
I remember him not getting out his horn and playing without a neck strap before he had the neck strap. He's like, I don't know. I wanted to deal with it, trying to hold it up and play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of Kane in Austin in the 80s.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to ask you guys, in lieu of all this stuff we've been. Oh, you got another photo? Who's got this one? Is this one from you, Jeff?
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, I got that one too.
that.
Oh,
Yeah,
Is that the bus we rode on?
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
Wichita.
Yep.
that's it. That's it.
Golly, those bunch of youngsters.
No kidding.
Everybody's got the shirt tucked in. What a different world we live
Wow.
in now.
Yeah.
Really?
That's really the only thing that's changed. Nobody tucks their shirt in anymore. Everything else looks the same to me.
Yeah.
Does anybody still own a belt?
I think I still own that belt, but but I can't. It fits on my wrist now.
It's a dog collar now.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
do have
it's
a
a
belt on.
dog collar. Exactly.
Actually, holy crap! I'm the only one that doesn't have a belt on.
No, you didn't get the memo. We no. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Too hip for the room.
Yeah, what's Ralph holding there? What is that? That's a
It's a
Shirt.
okay. Thought maybe it was an early mask or something.
Yeah.
Rob's got on a jacket, looking pretty cool there. That's pretty hip.
Rodney's jacket's the hip one.
Yeah.
Oh, so what I wanted to ask you guys is,
That's great.
reflecting back on all this and how much the times that we grew up in meant to us, and in terms of how we developed as musicians and the opportunities, that were around us, the people that encouraged us, the fact that we made the same money they make today, but it went so much farther back then, right? All that kind of stuff. But when you think about, I don't know, I think I'm thinking, I kind of worry about how live music survives. Certainly what we're going through right now is frightening, but how do you think, what are your feelings about all of that? How live music is going to survive this trend we're going through, but also, are you optimistic about, there's always going to be a way to find a new path to a scene to nurture music, or do you have any real concerns right now that a whole lot of that could really be in jeopardy for some time ahead of us? Because it's kind of dangerous times we're in, and it's kind of hard to know. I mean, I saw a piece in the Austin News the other day that by October, 90% of the Austin clubs could be shut permanently. 90%.
Yeah.
I mean, we've never seen anything like this in our lives.
Yeah.
And I wonder, just what kind of thoughts have you all had just about navigating this thing?
Are any of you guys familiar with a writer named Alvin Toffler?
Yeah.
He wrote a book 60 years ago called Future Shock. And he was one of the first futurists out there, kind of like what Ray Kurzweil is now in the world. And one of the things that were one of his tenets was that as we move on, society would demassify. And basically what that means for us is as our ability to connect on a human level either becomes very small or very large, there will be less Beyoncés in the world and more corner coffee shop troubadours. The future of art is for the catharsis of art, and humans will always find a way to make that human connection, but it might not be a viable commercial enterprise anymore, more like it used to be when it wasn't a viable commercial enterprise. You
mean like we'll all be making music purely for the love of it and what it represents in terms of enriching our lives as opposed to the professional thing?
I'm saying that will drive more human learning, more understanding of music, more playing music, more using technology to create music. I don't think it's going to drive more saxophone sales, or more instrument sales of any kind. The computer is the instrument of today. And, composers are assemblers, when they're doing it purely for themselves. All of us on this call have experience doing it for a market. We're doing it for someone else, but more and more I feel that it's going to become internalized, and a lot of the arts are going to be shared on a much more personal level, and it may be a while before they return to the same kind of profitability. That's my 2 cents. You asked.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm actually
anybody, Rodney?
I'm actually a little bit more optimistic in the near term. I think that, I hope that you get a handle on it one way or the other. Either everybody gets it and, the fallout is the fallout, or, they come up with a better way of treating it, or, even better still, a vaccine, if that all happens. But I'm just thinking that at some point, it's either going to be everywhere, or we're going to figure out a way to handle it, right? And it's not the one that ends humanity, thankfully. But I think it's all going to kind of get back to normal. But when that happens, I don't know. It could be. I think it's going to be much longer than people think. I think it's going to probably be well into next year. Next year before you can have like sporting events, or because we're not talking about just music gatherings and concerts. We're talking about sporting events and conventions and just all the ways that humans interact on a large scale. And I just can't see. I'm hoping we're not at that place that you mentioned, Rob, where that we can stick a pin in it and that's over.
That wasn't my intent.
I just think it's going to be a longer haul before we all kind of get back to somewhat normal. But the fallout from this in the short term is going to be devastating. Like you say, clubs are going to close forever. What musicians are going to do, is going to be scary.
It goes further than that, because the music business, I mean, when you consider all the support people that make what we do work, like take, for example, the Midwest Band and Orchestra, which is the biggest conference in the nation. It's already announced it's going to be online next year, this December. I mean, really? Publishers are firing staff because they're not selling music. Consequently, they're not selling it. The publishers aren't buying it from people like me or Jeff or whoever, Paul or whoever's writing stuff. So I got this backlog of stuff that people are saying, nah, Kender, who used to put out 16, 17 new charts a year, puts out maybe 8 now. The same Alfred has let go a ton of staff. Paul Baker with his little company, he tells me he's getting like 0 orders almost from the States. Mm-hmm. He said the only orders he's getting are from Canada. Now, that's the bad news. I think the good news is I heard just the other day from a friend who's actually a few years older than me, but he lives in a little, he's a big fish in a small pond. He's a good bass player where there are none, So whatever work there is, he gets it. And, he was all down in the mouth because his calendar was just, empty. He's got 3 gigs in the next couple of weeks in August. So I got called for a couple, which I turned down because I'm still kind of weird about it, because the venue attracts a lot of people from New York City and other places, and I'm nervous about that. But I think the other thing I'm seeing are kind of entrepreneurial. I mean, musicians are great entrepreneurs, let's face it. They figure out ways to make stuff happen. And I'm a big follower of WDR, and I'm often on their Facebook page checking out a video that a friend sent and of a Mendoza chart or something that they recorded. They've been sending their people out in duos and trios to like elementary schools. They're set up outside. They're playing. They're doing whatever it takes to keep the music being heard at some level, and just out there, and to keep themselves playing, and they're doing it with, social distancing and space between them and the audience, and in small settings, duos and trios. But it's going to be before we see places like Radio City or a big venue in Atlantic City or in any place, the Kimmel Center in Philly. Before that happens, it's going to be a long time. The Kimmel Center in Philadelphia decided months ago they're not doing anything until 2021. And they've posted no schedule. The Philly Orchestra is scrambling, trying to figure. They're doing all this stuff online, master classes. They're trying to sell master classes with principal players and so forth. Neat idea, but that's only going to go like so far before it has to be live again. And there have to be people buying tickets, you know.
Right.
And then I'm afraid that they're only going to be able to seat like 50%.
Yeah.
So that's going to drive the ticket price through the freaking ceiling, you know. So that
Why
A
didn't
lot of people won't tour.
afford to produce it at that?
no,
Right.
there's that too.
You know.
Yeah. It's a brave new world, man.
Yeah.
The first thing we have to do is vote in November and get Trump the F out of there.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
Right.
Yeah, you know, kind of chiming into what everybody said and going back to what Rob said, you know, the idea that beyond the commercial potential, and that's a difficult, that's a different discussion depending on who you are, depending on how much a part of your professional life music is. The greater the percentage, the more impact, the more dramatic that discussion is. Less so for somebody like me who, you know, plays, you know, and I make some money, but, you know, and I've taken a hit and I feel it, but it's nothing compared to what full-timers are experiencing, and certainly full-time performers, right? And people that tour. Lynn, I mean, you know, different, anybody on this call that does that. I mean, most people are teaching, but I also think beyond the professional angle and consideration and income consideration and all that is also, you know, the part that we all know music plays in a common language across cultures in a nation, in a society, that provides some kind of center to the wheel for people to come together around. You know, maybe we don't come together around music and discuss the great issues of the day, but at least it brings people together. Even if they're not discussing those things, at least they're cohabitating for a moment around something. You know, it's you could say it's a civilizing thing. And I think the lack of it is a very, very dangerous thing at a time like this.
Yeah, it's that cathartic effect of, they get together not to discuss the issues of the day, but to abandon the issues of the day for a little bit, and to let art take that place.
Whoa.
Right, and to reach
All right,
into...
I take it back.
And to reach
Sorry.
I'm sorry I said that about Trump.
Wow.
federal agents at the door.
They're sending the dogs after me.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
And you know,
Now,
like
she
you
only
said,
bites Republicans.
take a breather, take a momentary breather, and reconnect your heart with, something that transcends the issues, and you see each other differently briefly as you're experiencing this beautiful moment together, you know, in music, whether it's truly beautiful or whether it's shocking or whatever kind of music it is that is kind of pulling you out of this divisive, news-based view, depending on what you're consuming at any point in time, and going, hey, for a moment, we're all digging this thing together. I mean, I have people in my life that when we can talk about music, we can have a wonderful conversation. But lately, we're not able to talk at all. And that's why music's important. It's not the only reason, but I realize it's one of the reasons, because without that reference point, we don't have a way to try to work out, or even if we're not working out our other differences, we don't have a way to communicate with each other. And isolation is not a good thing, unless...
None of this is isolated to music. All the arts are in exactly the same boat.
Oh, they're all that way. Yeah.
So people aren't going to movies. They're not enjoying that together. They're not going to concerts or clubs. They're not enjoying that together. They're not going to an art gallery,
Right.
Right. They're not going to see a great show, a great play. It's like, so we're gonna have to stream a hell of a lot more of that figure out how to force the stuff on. Hi.
Hey,
So,
She says it's 10 o'clock.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've gone
She
almost
wants to watch Friday Night Lights. I mean, come on.
Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
That's reruns, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we just discovered it. Anything during a pandemic. You got to do something. You got to do something. Actually, I think it's a terrific show.
I just got into Nurse Jackie, and that was what 2010, and I never watched it.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I spent so many years on the road that I never had the normal life watching things. And people go, "Oh, you saw that episode, blah blah." I'm like, "Yeah, no, what was it?" So now it's like I'm living the normal life after the other life. So
Well, when this show came out, it was still too close to my Texas football years. I wanted no parts of a show, a soap opera based on Texas high school football. Really? Nah, I think I'll pass. But it's actually a really, really well written,
So that's what we're going to close with. Rick endorses Friday Night Lights. Lynn is Nurse who? I
Nurse
forgot.
Jackie.
Nurse Jackie. Yeah.
Nurse Jackie. Okay, and Paul, let's just go around the horn. Everybody gets to close with a suggestion for some kind of online viewing to soothe your aching soul.
I wanted to, I know we have time to get into it. I was going to talk about remembering some of my favorite Austin eateries from when we were all grad students.
Yeah.
So, G&M Steakhouse.
I was just
Oh
gonna,
yeah.
Trudy's.
yeah.
Benedict. Threadgill's.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, chicken fried steak.
What else, guys? Real quickly.
Dirty.
Oh, thread.
Please.
County Line.
County Line.
Remember
No.
the meat gigs? The meat gigs.
Yeah.
Do you remember, Paul, when you and
Kirby Lane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Kirby,
Sorry, go ahead.
Kirby.
Go ahead,
You know,
Scott.
I ended up living on Kirby Lane, the actual street, for about 5 years.
Well, we were
Really?
Bull Creek wasn't far from there.
Yeah, we'd go there all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Paul Ostermeyer would be in the corner playing his soprano with maybe Cola playing bass, and we'd be
Oh,
yeah,
3
Cola.
a.m., you know.
I just saw a picture of him. Somebody posted it like a couple weeks ago.
I saw it
Really?
too, and I don't remember
I
who and
posted
what.
one, I think.
Oh, was it you?
Oh, is that you? Yeah.
Cola bought my car. I had this Toyota Corona Deluxe.
Yeah.
The lining, the headliner in it was hanging down like on my head. So I stuck a ruler,
Paul's car had that going.
and it was
stuck
like,
in some
you know,
pins.
fat. Anyway, yeah, Cola bought my car.
You-
Cola, I want to buy your car. I want to buy your car.
Lynn,
I used to
Lynn
work
and
with
Cola.
Susie Stern
That's
at the
good,
filling
Jim.
station with Susie Stern, and it was Fred Walter.
Oh
Fred
yeah.
actually,
What a fine guitar player, man.
Fred actually was a major influence. One of the main reasons that I did not stay in Austin and I pursued a teaching career because I used to, Fred was such a great player.
He was
Oh,
doing
yeah.
so he was doing
Yeah.
yeah.
And I was like, I really don't want to be like 45 years old
And man,
and
Yeah.
working as a carpenter and playing gigs at night and
Yeah.
bitching about it. It's like
yeah.
I really.
And
It's
he
like
was
I just
good.
was like I was working enough. I could have just stayed in Austin and played gigs and made the rent, and it would have been really comfy. It
Yeah.
was cool. But
Yeah.
I just thought, I can't see myself like 20 years down the road doing the same gigs
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
being
he was-
happy about it.
He was always dark about his life.
But anyway,
That
so
one, anyway.
I would work with Susie, and every break, Cola and Fred would go up to the bar and they would sit down and they would start arguing about whatever the last tune we had played was, about some chord change. We just played Green Dolphin Street, and Fred was saying, Cola, I don't know, on that bridge, it really ought to be an F minor, an F minor, and he'd be,
No, Fred, I think the G minor. It really should be a D. I was going to play the D.
no, Cola. They would argue over some change until Susie would have to go drag them back to the bandstand. So funny.
I miss him so
Yeah.
much.
You
You
remember
guys were great.
Don Chamberlain?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I remember Don.
Yeah.
Did he get a doctorate from UT or something?
I
He
think
was a
so.
grad student, I think.
Good.
Yeah.
And he passed away.
You're
Oh.
kidding me.
No, he did, and I forget how long ago that was now.
Wow.
but he came into my reality recently. I actually contracted a gig out here in LA for Dave Perkoff.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a blast from the past too.
Yeah.
The Moner Groner Orchestra.
We were talking about Don, and I was going through papers recently, and I found an invitation to Don's wedding.
Wow.
Stuff that I had saved.
Wow.
Wow. He was a really sweet guy.
Paul, I just remembered another one. It's a little outside of town, the Salt Lick.
Oh,
yeah.
Salt Lick.
Oh man, now there's some barbecue.
Yep.
What was the omeletry? The omeletry
Yeah.
on Hancock.
Yeah.
No,
I like
Burnett.
Manuel.
Burnett and Hancock, right about there.
What was that place on
Katz's, of course.
Yeah.
Katz's? Yeah.
God rest Katz's
Jeff
soul.
and I
no longer
polished
with us.
off many a martini at Katz's.
Yes, we did. The closest it ever got to any vermouth was that painting of the bottle of vermouth
That's
behind the
right.
bar. Las Manitas had fantastic migas.
Oh, that place was. Oh, I loved that place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just divey enough to be really cool.
Where's the place,
Great.
Jeff, that used to go for breakfast tacos?
Oh, the Stars Inn.
Stars
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, the Stars Inn.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
right up in the corner there, right?
Oh yeah, it was a horrible place. I'd sit there and watch the roaches
It was.
Yeah.
crawling, but
Greg
breakfast
Wilson
tacos
introduced
were
me to
off
that
the hook,
place.
man. They were awesome. And
Yeah,
I could walk there. It was just like 2 blocks down the road from where I was.
Greg Wilson
Not
and
very
Jim
far
Moore
away.
turned me onto that place.
Jeff, what's your recommended show to view?
Longmire.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I really
Yeah, I
enjoyed
like
that.
Longmire. Yeah.
If you like that, you should watch Yellowstone too. Watch that one at
Oh.
all. It's on the Paramount Network. If you get that, I get it on Sling, I think.
Okay.
But it's
Okay.
another like Montana,
Yeah.
what's his Kevin
Costner. Yeah.
Costner? Yeah, it's kind of
Okay.
Montana-ish.
Marlboro Man kind of thing.
There.
I also binge watched Breaking Bad from beginning to end. That was
Oh
pretty
well,
cool.
yeah. Breaking Bad is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we got two. We got a couple cowboys and people that shoot each other shows. We got a nursing thing. We got a football thing. Rodney and Rob, what do you guys think we should be watching?
If you haven't seen it, the series is already over now. But there's 2 series I'd recommend. They're already older. One is Preacher, and the other one is Legion. For what's running currently, I'd recommend Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I like that one.
Those all
And-
sound like album titles from Luis Gasca.
Yeah.
I don't know,
My Louis story is not fit for a public broadcast, as were most of the things that came out of his mouth. But I also like Billions a lot on Showtime.
okay,
British
Rodney?
baking show.
The British baking. Now, there we go. Now you're pulling us back in my direction, a little less dark. Rodney, how about you, man? What are you
Actually,
watching?
we don't watch TV.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's the future right
when
there,
my,
baby.
son was born, my wife and I turned the TV on, and we don't watch anything, but we do watch movies now.
Okay, well,
Okay.
give us a movie.
We don't watch the series or. So we watch movies with him, so that's always fun because he's 11 now, so we get to see all those old movies again, Back to the Future and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
But
okay.
so
what do
yeah,
you
but we
got
don't
queued
watch
up?
the-
What do you
we
got
don't
queued
watch
up
the
next
other
for him?
shows.
What's up next for him?
What are we watching? He really liked the Pink Panther movies,
Oh yeah.
so we might go back and see one of those.
Oh yeah, those are.
Okay. Well, that leads into
And
mine.
then we got into the Men in Black, so we've seen 2 of those, and then there's going to be another one after that. I don't know.
Well, don't give him nightmares. If you mentioned the Pink Panther films. I was rummaging through Netflix or Prime or one of them, among our 45 different subscriptions, which equal 10 times what an actual cable bill would have been like if we'd had cable. So much for choice and the wisdom of it. And it was an old Peter Sellers movie. Paul knows about this one called The Party.
Oh, yeah.
That's a wonderful movie.
Favorite.
Yeah.
It kind of goes off the rails once they get in the swimming pool with the elephant. But up to that point,
Birdie,
and
Birdie,
it's probably not very PC, honestly. But I'll tell you,
Oh,
just if you do nothing else tonight, just cue up the dinner sequence and watch that.
Yeah.
With the drunk waiter and the salad bowl and the Cornish game hen on the lady's head, and oh my God, I remember watching that film on late night TV one night when I was in high school, and I had a pillow on my face because I didn't want to wake up my parents because I was laughing so hard. And oh, that's a great movie.
that is a great movie. Very little dialogue. Once it gets going, there's not that much talking. It's just you can't believe what you're watching.
Very little dialogue. It's sort of a minor antidote to our times, right?
Yep.
So just watch a little of.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
So when my son, I want to say Rodney, when my son was 11, we used to do this. He loved this.
Yeah.
He's 23 now, and he will still break into like the jumbo dog.
You're playing that for him. Holy
Jumbo
smokes.
dog.
Oh my gosh, you're the only person that I think has a CD. I think that's the only one that exists.
I think
So
I have as an alarm on my phone. I have that.
Now, you know where that comes from. You'll love this as a closing thought. Look at the bottom of that disc. Look at the name of the publishing, the ASCAP publishing name I have on it. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Can you read that out loud? Pronounce it for us.
Faha.
There you go. So here's your final story of the night. Paul McKee and I, when we were living together over by the airport with Hank Hemsoth and Ralph Alessi.
Oh yeah,
Miles Graffett.
Miles.
We had just left Schlotsky's after eating a large, and then we went to see Stephen King's Creep Show at the multiplex. And when we left the multiplex, as we drove home in the car, we had this strange way that we would talk, this kind of, I don't know, weird other language that we would talk to each other, and it was short, choppy little words, and we would never actually put all the letters on a word. We would just talk in strange ways. And Creep Show became Creeshow. And Faha was just two more syllables. I don't even remember what the Faha meant.
Well, the fa was the F-bomb.
Oh. Okay.
And then was just being startled.
Now, that's a cut from that CD.
And I think it is, yeah.
That is Paul and I creating an answering machine message when I first got a phone answering
I
machine.
remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Well, it was the... Well, it was just the
rainbow trout,
just layering on additional, old school tech, just layering stuff on to the same one over and over again, and it was we entertained ourselves in our low tech world quite successfly.
I had one of those little 4-track reel-to-reel recorders you could do that with.
I want to know why that last cut never made it on that first UT Big Band album with you, Rick. That's all I'm wondering. There was room. There was room on side B, on the B side. So anyway, that's where Creeshow Faha came from, and
that's how you want to end this evening.
And I just want to. I think we should end with apologies all the way around for the sounds we have just heard. No, it's an absolute pleasure getting to hang with you guys and see all your faces. And I can just say from me, as I've reflected back, and we've all done a lot of reflecting lately, I'm sure. I mean, there's nothing like a pandemic, a financial collapse, a presidency from hell, whatever else spinning around that, a hurricane thrown in for good measure, whatever. And you start to kind of look back at your life and go, you know, hopefully I have a lot of time left, but I'm thinking about what I've been blessed with. And growing up, you know, musically in Austin has blessed me so much. I have so many friends. That's why I started doing this little thing about 2 months ago. I was just missing people. And I thought, I'm going to come on and I'm just going to turn on the Facebook Live and start talking to people. And Paul was one of the first people that, you know, chimed in and said, hey, man, keep it going. So I had him on as a guest. And, you know, there have been a number of others, and I'm going to try to keep it going. Paul Ostermeyer was on, Mitch was on. One night, the whole Passenger Band was on, and Jennifer Warnes came on.
I think a Beto reunion would be cool.
Yeah, I just talked to Robert about that. I'm going to try to get he and Mordecai and whoever will come on to be on. Susie Stern and George Oljay are going to be on next Monday.
Cool.
So it has meant so much to me to reconnect with people and have a chance to hear you all, and just to tell you how much I love you and appreciate that I've known you and made music with you, because it's a great gift, you know.
Yeah, mutual.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Any closing thoughts from anybody before we sign off, so we can completely erase Krisho Faha from our memory at this point?
Thank you for the invitation. This has been
Thanks for doing this.
I remember Hole in the Wall had saltines with salsa.
Oh,
What the hell? What the hell?
Are you serious? Crackers?
Yeah,
and salsa?
it was the worst. I was going, and that was like when I first moved
Yeah.
to Austin. I'd walk up the hill to the drag, and and I went in the Hole in the Wall, and oh, here's some salsa. Oh, and you know, and some saltines. So anyway, I'll leave you with that one.
That's a very New York Tex-Mex kind of vibe.
Isn't it?
Only it would have been ketchup instead of salsa, right?
Yeah.
That really chaps my hide.
No, real quickly, I tell my students every place I've ever taught, I tell my students, look around you. These people that you're graduating with and going to school with are the people you're going to be in touch with the rest of your life. They're going to be your peers. You're going to share gigs. You're going to do stuff. And you know, it's just nice to get back together with everybody and just see everybody, you know, doing what they do. And it's inspiring. And it was just some of the, you know, I just have such great memories of the Austin time. So I thank everybody for that, you know.
Boy, too. Yeah. Would you all come back and do this again sometime? Because there are stories we haven't told, and there's definitely more Luis Gasca material we haven't covered. I mean, Paul and I were on a gig together with him, and I'm saving that for next time to get more people to come back. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, thank you.
It's great to see y'all.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
Love you all.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks.
Be safe.